I thought it was just a stupid dare, but I had no idea what I was about to discover under that pier. The door, they said, had been there for decades. Some say it leads to a place where no one ever comes back from. What I found down there still haunts me to this day. Part 1, the dare. You know, sometimes you look back at a moment and think, if I had just said no, none of this would have ever happened. Yeah, this is one of those moments. It was last summer. I went to stay with my cousin Jake in this tiny beach town. You know, the kind of place where nothing ever happens, but the locals love telling spooky stories just to keep things interesting. The first night I got there, Jake took me to the Boardwalk to meet some of his friends. It was one of those perfect summer nights. Warm breeze, waves crashing, the smell of salt water, and fried food in the air. The Boardwalk was still alive with people, but not too crowded. We were all sitting on the edge of the pier, legs dangling over the side, just talking about random stuff. School, girls, you know, the usual. And then one of Jake's friends, this guy named Travis, says, "Hey, did anyone ever tell you about the door under the pier?" I laughed. "What door?" I asked. Jake looked at Travis, kind of smirking, but also a little serious. "The old metal door under the pier," Jake said. "Some say it's been there for like decades. No one knows where it leads. But every summer, someone stupid enough tries to find it." Travis leaned in closer. "They say if you go through that door, you might not come back." Of course, I thought they were messing with me. Small towns love their ghost stories, right? So I rolled my eyes and said, "Yeah, sure. And what, some sea monster lives down there or something?" But then Travis grinned and pulled out his phone. He showed me this blurry picture, dark and grainy, but you could just barely make out what looked like a door wedged into the rocks beneath the pier. "Bet you can't find it," he said. "And even if you do, bet you won't go inside." Everyone was watching me, waiting to see if I'd chicken out. I tried to play it cool, but honestly, I felt this weird chill run down my spine. Still, no way was I gonna back down in front of these guys. So I smirked back and said, "Fine, I'll find your stupid door." If only I knew what was waiting for me down there. Part 2, finding the door. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about that stupid dare. Part of me was like, it's just a dumb story, man. There's probably nothing down there. But another part, I don't know. Something about that blurry photo Travis showed me. The way the door was just there, hidden under everything, it got under my skin. So that evening, just before sunset, I decided to go check it out. The Boardwalk was still full of people. Couples holding hands, kids with ice cream, music from the arcade machines. Everything felt normal, safe. But as I walked toward the end of the pier, where the wooden planks creaked under my feet, the crowd started thinning out. No one was down there. It was like people knew to stay away when it got dark. I climbed over the railing, careful not to slip, and made my way down to the rocks. The waves were hitting hard that day, salty spray hitting my face, making everything slippery. I crouched low, moving under the pier where the wood was rotting and broken in places. Shadows stretched long from the setting sun, and that's when it hit me. I was completely alone. Just me, the waves, and that low creaking sound of the old boards above me. For a while I thought maybe they were messing with me. Maybe there was no door. But then, I saw it. Hidden behind a stack of old broken planks and seaweed, there it was. A metal door bolted right into the stone wall. It looked ancient, rust eating through the surface, like it hadn't been touched in decades. I got closer, my heart pounding harder with every step. And that's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The heavy lock hanging on it wasn't locked anymore. It was snapped open, like someone, or something, had been there before me. I stood there for a minute, just staring at it, every part of me screaming to turn back. But then I thought about Jake and Travis, about how they'd laugh at me if I chickened out. So I reached out and grabbed the cold, rusted handle. I took a deep breath and started to pull. Part 3, going inside. As I pulled the door open, this awful smell hit me, like a mix of rotting seaweed, mold, and something else, something metallic like old blood. The door groaned so loud, I thought someone might hear it from up on the pier. But when I paused to listen, nothing. No voices, no footsteps. Just the sound of waves smashing against the rocks and that low, endless creak of the wood above. I held up my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam shook. because my hands were already trembling, but I stepped inside anyway. The walls were stone, slick with moisture, covered in patches of green moss and dark stains I didn't want to think too hard about. As I moved further in, the tunnel sloped downward like a spiral. Every step I took, I could feel the temperature drop. It was freezing, way too cold for a summer night. The deeper I went, the less I could hear the ocean. Instead, this low humming started, so faint I thought I was imagining it at first. But as I kept walking, the humming grew louder, not like machinery but something more alive. Then I noticed the walls. There were carvings everywhere, like someone had scratched them deep into the stone. At first, they looked like random symbols, spirals, triangles, weird lines. But as I ran my fingers over them, trying to figure them out, I realized some of them looked like figures, people, or at least something almost human. Thin, twisted bodies, huge empty eyes, like they were watching me from the walls. I kept going. I don't know why. Every part of me was screaming to get out, but my feet just wouldn't stop moving. Then I saw something that made me stop cold. Lying on the ground, half covered in dirt and grime, was a shoe. Not an old, worn-out shoe, but like a modern sneaker. Someone else had been here, recently. I picked it up for a second, and that's when I heard it. A sound, deeper in the tunnel. Like a whisper, but not words, more like breathing. Wet, heavy breathing. I froze, holding my phone up, trying to see what was ahead, but the tunnel curved and the light couldn't reach around the corner. Suddenly I realized how far I was from the entrance. If something was down there, there was no way out but back the way I came. And as I stood there trying to decide what to do, the breathing got louder, closer. Something was coming. Part 4, what I saw. I stood there, frozen, my flashlight shaking in my hand. That breathing, it was definitely real now. Slow, heavy, wet, like something struggling to inhale. I wanted to turn and run, but something deep inside me kept whispering, "Just a little further, just see what's around that corner." So against every instinct, I took a step forward, and then another. As I moved closer to the curve in the tunnel, I noticed something on the walls. It wasn't just carvings anymore. There were scratches, deep claw marks, like something had been trying to climb its way out. The breathing grew louder, and mixed with it, I could hear something else now. A whisper. But it wasn't like someone speaking to me. It was more like, "Help me." It was so faint, like a dying echo. Finally, I turned the corner. What I saw, I'll never forget it. The tunnel opened up into a small stone chamber. In the center of the room was a chair. But not just any chair. It was like an old wooden chair bolted to the floor, with heavy ropes still tied to the arms and legs, like someone had been tied down there. But that's not what made me stop breathing. All around the room, on the floor, the walls, even stuck to the chair, were photographs. Hundreds of them. I stepped closer to look. Every single photo was of a person standing on the boardwalk. Different people. Men, women, kids, all different times of day, different years, judging by the clothes. But in every single photo, behind them, standing way too close, there was this dark figure. Tall, thin, shadowy. Like a man, but twisted. No face, just darkness, where a face should be. I felt sick, like I was gonna throw up. And then, I saw one last photo lying right on the chair. When I picked it up, my whole body went numb. It was me, standing on the boardwalk, from the night before, when I was hanging out with Jake and his friends. And behind me, just like in all the other photos, that same figure, standing right over my shoulder. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. And that's when I realized the breathing was right behind me now. I turned around slowly, shaking all over, and for just a second, in the beam of my flashlight, right at the edge of the darkness, I saw it. Tall, thin, twisted, head tilted to the side like it was watching me. Before I could even scream, the flashlight flickered and died. Part 5, the escape and what still haunts me. The second my flashlight went out, everything went black. And when I say black, I mean like total darkness. The kind where you can't even see your own hand in front of your face. But that breathing, it was still there, closer than ever. Slow, wet, like something huge was standing right behind me, just waiting. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, and I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Then I heard it. "Don't leave me." But it wasn't a growl or a monster sound. It sounded almost human, like someone broken, begging. I don't know what snapped in me at that moment, but I bolted. I didn't care where I was running, I just ran. I stumbled through the dark, slipping on wet stone, cutting my hands and knees on sharp rocks. The whole time I could hear it moving behind me. Dragging? Slithering? I don't even know. Somehow I found the way back to the tunnel. I could see just a faint crack of light where the door was still open, my only way out. But as I got closer, I realized something that made my stomach drop. The door was closing. Slowly but definitely moving, like something wanted to trap me down there. I sprinted, full speed, slipping and sliding, and threw myself at the door just as it was about to slam shut. I hit it hard, but I pushed through and fell out onto the rocks, scraping up my arms. I scrambled to my feet, kicked the door shut, and stood there for a second, gasping for air. But then, boom, something slammed into the door from the inside. So hard the metal rattled and groaned. I didn't wait to see what it was. I just ran. Ran all the way back to the boardwalk, not stopping until I was surrounded by people again. But here's the thing. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Like, yeah, I found the creepy door, and yeah, I got out. But now, I still feel like something followed me back. At night, when I'm walking home, sometimes I catch a glimpse of something just behind me in the reflection of store windows. Or I'll hear breathing, that same wet, heavy sound when I'm lying in bed and I know I'm alone. And a couple days ago, someone slipped a photo under my apartment door. It was me. Taken from behind, standing on the boardwalk. And in the photo, just like all the others, that same figure, watching me. So yeah, if you ever find yourself near that boardwalk and someone dares you to find that door, don't. Some doors should stay closed. So, what do you think? Was it just a weird coincidence, or is something really lurking under that pier? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more creepy tales. You never know what dark secrets we'll uncover next. Stay safe out there.